30 years back, if I had been invited to speak, I would not have needed these cog sheets, and I would not have needed specs as well. Not that we are in the business of eyewear, but so the first thing to do is to change, Well, I asked Harish, I was told by Ram, what do, like every day morning when you get up, guys like us only think about the dhanda that you're going to do, especially companies like us which are in retail. So what do I talk about in such a intellectually strong, powerful, informed audience? And he said the Titan story perhaps would be interesting. So maybe I'll mix something I've learned over the years, maybe about my own change, and some from my experience within Titan, and how Titan has dealt with change. But let me start with a story and, about the subject itself. And this, I want to start with in one way, which is, 2 days back, in fact, my friend is here, Ravi. We were at the institute where I studied management. And we were reminded that we started as managers. So I just want to start with, my own thinking about who is a manager and who's a leader, and is there a difference? So let me start with a story from Titan, which goes back to maybe 1986, before we launched. I was out of MBA school, and 7-8 years after that. And we had applied all the information, all the skills we had learned from college in understanding how do we get into the watch market. We were several of us. There were manufacturing experts, there was me, sales, and there was somebody from marketing. And the data that pointed in the direction of what, we were a closed economy at that time. The government determined what you could do, 86, 87. And government had decided that if anybody is to get into watches, they must make 80% should be mechanical watches and 20% shall be quartz watches. This is the general diktat. So it was easy, when there is no choice, it's easy to make a business plan, when the constraints are less. It is only today we are talking about the VUCA world, nothing is defined, so it's very difficult to make decisions. So we had made our plans based on 80-20 and all the equipment, and it was very obvious. 99% of the watches that were sold in this country were mechanical watches. The great company HMT, which used to make and still has the capability of making exceptionally good watches. And then something happened. Indira Gandhi was assassinated and Rajiv Gandhi came to power. And I think the start of globalization, etc. happened, but leave that as it may. We were told, now you are free to do what you want. That posed a huge problem. All the reams of paper, we didn't have, this kind of powerful computers and so on. So we were in a room, it was at the Gulmohar suite here at the Taj. That still is where Titan was born in a way. But all of us, so Mr. Desai, who we consider, Xerxes Desai, who we consider still as the founder of Titan. Incidentally, he was neither an engineer nor a marketing expert. He was just an MA, not just, he was an MA from Oxford. And somebody like that starting an engineering and marketing company, that is the first big lesson in leadership. So we were all in this room and each one of us gave the inputs as to why our current plan is the best, 80% mechanical, 20% quartz, and we'll make it happen, and we have the best marketing team, we'll hire the best guys, etc., etc. And the manufacturing guys said, yeah, we can set up the plant, we'll set up a world-class plant, and so on. So he said, okay, he wrote all his notes down very clearly, and then said, tomorrow morning we'll meet at 9 o'clock like we did today, and said, he came back And then he read out this simple sentence, not it's a few sentences. He said, look, first of all, we are Tata, okay? Globally, the world has moved to quartz. And then came the rationale, quartz has only 60 moving parts, a quartz watch. Mechanical watch has some 160 moving parts. Quartz doesn't need to be wound, and so on and so forth. It is an emerging technology. And as Tata, it is our job to bring the best of the world to India. And therefore, we'll go for 100% quartz. Now that kind of devastated us, all our knowledge about, market research. We said, this is a disastrous decision. We will never succeed. The whole market is against us. We'll be swimming against the current. And he said, I don't care. That's your job. Okay, you have to make it happen. That's how Titan was started. It was started by a man who had no specific skill in watchmaking, no specific marketing knowledge, no specific expertise in. But I believe we still call him a visionary. Now that leap of faith, what is right for this country, what is right by the Tata Group, and even we kept, saying, I think Mr. Desai is not the right MD for this company, all that, how we talk about all that. Anyway, so that is the first story I wanted to share. So the thought that behind this is there a difference between managers and leaders? And I'm not making this as, it's an opinion, and I think we should be thoughtful about this. If I were to list down, here's another story, not story. If I were to look, we are very clear that Sachin Tendulkar, the god of cricket and the best batsman in the world, and there's debate going on, versus Dhoni. It's very clear, isn't it? We believe Dhoni is a better captain, and Dhoni is neither the best batsman nor the best wicketkeeper. I don't know what else best, but he was our best captain. In football, there's one more example. One of the best, most skilled players was Zinedine Zidane. 1998, France won the World Cup, and Zinedine Zidane was the hero. The captain of that team was an unknown guy called Didier Deschamps. He was just a back. And who do you think the manager of the 2018 World Cup team was? It was Didier Deschamps. And who do you think lost the World Cup for France a few years back? It was Zinedine Zidane. It was the headbutt of Zinedine Zidane. To me, he's still the greatest player. But there is a difference. There is a difference. So I believe managers have, and I'm not saying Zinedine Zidane is just a manager. He's the greatest player according to me. But could he lead a country to World Cup victory? Maybe not. So these are just in terms of emphasis, not really, it's not a binary managers versus leaders. On the left, I have managers. On the right, I have leaders. I believe managers bring skill and competence. Very important for an organization. Whether you are skilled at supply chain, whether you're skilled at high-tech manufacturing, whether you're a skilled CIO, CFO. Leaders, I believe, bring all that, or maybe not all that, but certainly bring belief and passion. Belief and passion, this is at least when I go back, every time I go back and look at Mr. Desai, how would he do something? It was belief and passion. Courage, perhaps, is the additional word. I believe managers supervise, leaders inspire. I believe managers have subordinates and leaders have followers. Certainly leaders have, in companies, when you're an MD, whether you're a leader or a manager, you have to have both followers and subordinates. But the other thing about leaders and managers, I believe, when you communicate, most managers communicate by and large because they need to communicate. They need to speak. It's mostly top down, and it is for informing. You are informing. I've done my job, I'm informing you. I'm not saying all managers are like this. And I believe leaders communicate fundamentally, they think of communication as two-way. They are communicating and they are listening. An important quality, because why do they do this? They're communicating not merely to inform, I believe they're communicating to influence as well. An influence of one kind, which is what is good for this organization. I believe in something, but it's only if I listen to you will I get it executed well. So they listen and they communicate, but more for influence and perhaps some for inspiration. The last bit is a little trivial. Managers think of the next quarter and leaders think of the next quarter century, perhaps, maybe quarter decade. So having started with that, I just want to share a few examples from Titan. You know, this bit about the VUCA world. I mean, everybody is, very, very scared about VUCA, all the volatility and everything else that it stands for. But where we stand today in India, this thing about, in business, in the watch and the jewelry business, when we open a store in the airport, we call it a gift shop. But actually it's a guilt shop. All the men who have been traveling for 20 days, when they're going back home, they feel guilty. So they have to buy something in that shop, take back something. We call it a guilt shop, not a gift shop. So similarly, this VUCA word has come from the West, honestly. And if your chief CIO or chief digital officer has also been trained in one of those heavily Western companies, he will tell you that your entire MIS system and your entire hardware is like sitting in Jurassic Park. You need to invest. If you're a 20,000 crore company, you need to invest 1,000 crores. If you're a 500 crore company, you should invest 50 crores. Otherwise, you're going to be like redefined, you'll be dead, etc., etc. So this attitude of fear, I will be, a nobody tomorrow, is the way of selling today. But when I look at VUCA from an Indian perspective, I mean, we are the fastest growing economy in the world. We have a 1.2 billion people wanting a better life tomorrow. I look at VUCA as an opportunity. I know everybody looks at it as an opportunity, not as a challenge. So let the entire perspective, certainly in our company, we are trying to establish. Yes, there are challenges, but challenges are about opportunity. They are not about getting overawed by, oh my God, what is... Let me give you the pride of this company, Titan. We say we play across the value chain. We start with design and we end with after-sales service. We design our watch, we design our jewelry, we manufacture our jewelry, we brand our jewelry. Every brand of ours is our own brand. We own the retail outlets, we own the channels, and then we provide the after-sales service. The whole thing, every part of this value chain, has been impacted by VUCA. Every part. Design today, you don't have to have a design team of your own. You can do global sourcing of design. If you take manufacturing, you don't have to make anything on your own. You can do global manufacturing. The cheapest and the best maybe in China or in Switzerland or in Italy for jewelry. If you go to distribution, you are in the Jurassic Park. You don't need brick and mortar stores. You can do online. Every part is challenged. Every part is going to be different 20 years from now. Certainly some of it 5 years from now. And therefore, should we look at it as a threat or an opportunity? I think the one thing, if anything, our leadership team has succeeded in doing is to tell the entire 8,000 plus people in the company, saying, and we put it up in public, saying from 15,000 crores to 52,000 crores in 5 years is where we are going, and this company is full of opportunity. Now, does that come out of just bravado, courage and all that, belief and all I spoke about? It comes out of course, real hard work, rational work, not passionate work. And it comes out, the last bit, maybe the last 20% may be just a dream. But that is what the young people across the country are looking at. Otherwise, they want to go to startups, They want to say, boring company here. 5%, 7%, 12%. Okay, very profitable company, Tata, why should we leave? It's got great brands and all. But will I stay here forever? It is about, will this company take me somewhere else? And is this company going somewhere else? So, the VUCA bit, which I've got a lot of notes on, I just want to, talk about the first challenge, which my team has said this is a challenge, but I say this is an opportunity. So, in Titan, of course, we have done a lot of work gathering people in the last 2 years, 200, 300 people, young people, under 30, under 25, over 50, to understand what should we keep constant in Titan and what should change at Titan. It is a very long, hard journey, getting people together, how they will never agree with each other. But I think good leadership is not just about, democratic leadership, it is about consensus building. You cannot afford to have a headwind from your own employees, because no employee is going to talk against you, obviously not. But it is the undercurrent, if you were to tell him to build the next, online engine, he'll bring, if you don't, give him enough resources, he'll come back and say how it's not possible. And you don't understand that subject a bit. So, building consensus, co-creating the future, this is an important bit in the VUCA world, and that is when you look at it positively. The second bit which I want to talk about is to do with something called multi-generational workforce. This is, I think all of you are facing. It's an easy answer, but at Titan we have the classic manufacturing, marketing and new age. So, the manufacturing guys, you know how they are. They are hardcore manufacturing. And then there is the age difference. The new age is all under 30. The manufacturing guys, unionized, all that. The multi-generational, multi-functional, multi-attitudinal population is a challenge. But again, we converted it to an opportunity. How do you manage and lead a multi-generational workforce? It's a challenge, but again, the way to deal with this, I believe, in the current context, certainly for Titan, we went deep into our own culture. We went deep into our culture and tried to figure out what I told a little while back about what should remain and what should change. And two things we realized is we are not demanding performance, we are simply inspiring performance as a group. This is the old world thinking in our company, saying, we will give, people will set their own targets and they will achieve them themselves. A great way of doing it. But the younger lot are saying, look, we've come with skills, we want to grow faster, so demand performance from us, but at the same time demand from the older guys as well. So the whole concept of how to manage performance is a cultural, how do you manage, it's not, it's not about ESOPs and, it's not about those incentives and all that. Of course, you'll do all that. But the fundamental philosophy of performance management, inspiring versus driving performance. So this is the basic change that is occurring, but I'm not saying we are now only driving performance and not inspiring performance. But the thinking in the top leadership is now it is a combination. So the multi-generational workforce has to be managed in this manner, the new age and the old age, shall we say. The next point is similar. If you have to do this at the leadership level, you cannot have non-conflicting leaders. There has to be diversity. All leaders thinking the same. Change is very difficult. If your top management has grown, of course, together, all my colleagues, are all in their 50s, 60s, and so on. And if you don't inject diversity at the top, nobody is there to question you. And I've been around for now 17 years, and if I don't feel dissatisfied, I should not be there. And that dissatisfaction comes out of somebody down the line, at least in the leadership, saying, do you think this is the right thing to do? I don't think so. This is what I think. Now the idea of consensus as well as celebrating differences is an important bit, which I have certainly learned late in my life, but it is important. The fourth thing is the organization's learning curve. Now we can keep talking about learning organizations, and I think you guys know this best, how you can create a learning organization. But an organization cannot learn by itself if its leaders themselves are not curious. Curiosity for me is a very important quality in a leader. And it doesn't have to be, do I know machine learning? Do I know artificial intelligence? I don't know, but I should know what it is about. And I'm not saying push yourself, but could artificial intelligence help this company do better? Could it help that person in the front line, that girl who's facing the Tanish customer? Can it help in some way for her, as soon as she walks in, to say, ma'am, you came for your daughter's wedding and bought this, earring, and now I have matching bangles or something like that? Artificial intelligence today can deliver. Now, your ability, your curiosity that can such things help is important, not whether you know artificial intelligence. I suppose I'm very clear. It's the manager's job to know artificial intelligence. It's the leader's job to know that he doesn't know anything about artificial intelligence, but that he has to figure out what artificial intelligence is all about. So these are some of the 4 or 5 things I wanted to share with you. And I go back to my story. I want to close with a story which happened again on Saturday, and Ravi was there on that day. It was quite a revelation to me. We had our batch met after 40 years after passing out of IMA. And we were sitting in the classroom, and all our professors were sitting in the front bench. And the organizers had asked Titan to make a commemorative watch. And so like a good marketing guy, I made this presentation, how this watch, is inspired by the Jali of IMA, the bricks of IMA, the batch, and so on and so forth, very inspiring. And I made the mistake in front of, the gurus of marketing, Abhinandan Jain, Amarlal Kalro. I said, sir, this is about design. And I didn't learn design in IMA. Somehow I've learned design after IMA and in Titan. And everybody laughed, my batchmates, they are, Bhaskar ne kya bol diya, and all that, okay. And here comes Professor Jain and he said, Bhaskar, yes, you didn't learn design, and that was a very inspiring design. But I think this institute taught you how to recruit a good designer. That's all we have to teach you. So I realized, I stood up and did namaskar to Abhinandan Saab. Abhi bhi aap humko padha rahe hain. It is, the question is, do we learn? It's not enough to have good teachers. You should have an attitude to learn. That's what curiosity is all about. So let me just close by saying thank you for inviting me, but the more important point is, I think the there has to be a slightly different view of leadership in India. I think we have to develop an Indian leadership design, which is not simply about the opportunities that 1.3 billion people, aspiring Indians, are going to, you know, uh, you know, uh, uh, have in front of us. It is more about how Indians need to be managed, led, and inspired in the next 15, 20 years, which is going to be at least 2 decades of India. Thank you, and all the very best.